This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
Okay, so we got Elemental Records is rocking it in Eugene. We got Northwest Ungrunge. Probably Northwest Ungrunge 2 has come out by now, right?
Northwest Post-Grunge.
Post-Grunge.
Yeah, I had the clever title. I thought about the Ungrunge too, but which didn't sell as well as the original. But even though I was excited, I got Artist the Spoon Man on there because that was after Soundgarden came out with a song called Spoon Man about a real spoon man in Seattle, and so I got him doing a track on there. And
what track did he do? Do you remember?
It was called, I think it was called "I'm Awake" or something. But he sang on it, and he wasn't a really very good singer. You know, he's known for the spoon thing, but
his spooning kicked ass.
Yeah, that it did.
I think the biggest issue with his singing, and I remember I probably saw Artists a dozen times over the years. I thought the guy was absolutely amazing live to watch. He sang with no backup, so he was really searching. You know, even if he had a guitar behind him, I think he would have found it because he had a nice voice. It felt like it was random.
Yeah, and pretty raw. You know,
pretty raw. Agreed.
Right.
Super talented dude, though.
Yeah.
But that was post-Ungrunge.
Yeah, post-Grunge
So,
I think came out right after the Sync, and then Northwest Post-Grunge. And then, I mean, what did it start getting into? Maybe that was like the Sonic X-Plosion era.
Getting close.
Well, I think Glyph was released before Sonic X-Plosion.
That's true, right. So the follow-up, the floater follow-up, right?
Not much before, but yes, before.
Yep. And then so Sonic X-Plosion, how did that idea come about?
You know, I have to give it to my radio guy, Steve Woodward. He really is largely his idea. And he said, you know, we get tons of demo tapes in here because the label's getting known. And we just had this flood of them. It was great. We could always listen to music. And I had a policy I wanted to say back. It's like I thought, and I took this very seriously. I listened to every single demo tape ever sent to me. I didn't care how much they piled up or how much, because I just thought if some band, I knew, because just coming up in the trenches, if some band took the time and effort to put this thing together, it was important to them to spend the money on it they probably didn't have, and to drop it off of the label. I thought, unlike the big bloated corporate horror labels that they just piled up in someone's desk, I thought I need to at least listen to it. Doesn't mean I have to like it, doesn't mean I have to enjoy it, certainly doesn't mean I have to do something with it, but I wanted to go to sleep at night saying, yeah, you sent me a demo tape, I checked it out. So we had a lot of demo tapes, rolling in, and then Steve comes up with this, and try to keep it succinct here. He says, what about some kind of idea where instead of just choosing your next band behind the scenes, we make it like a public forum. We get radio involved, commercial rock radio station down there in Eugene. We make it like this. It's funny because now they have The Voice and what's the other, American Idol, and it was kind of it was based on that, only with full bands, not just individual performers. And he said we can tie in radio and we can have a series, and he had the whole thing about rounds and then quarterfinals and then semifinals, and then ultimately in the end, and it'd be the course of the better part of a year, that at the end of the year, whoever won basically was the new Elemental band. They get a recording contract. We're going to sign them. They become part of the family. And so we have a series of shows, and it tied in live music. It was an excellent idea, and it worked really well at the gate. We did them all at the Wow Hall, and it'd be like, and so we get promotion, and then he got the commercial rock radio station. Was it KNRQ? Is that still around?
KNRQ was the commercial radio station.
And so they would sponsor it, and we get tons of, airtime. They would bring in the bands and do interviews, and then they play their tracks, and then they promote the show. And it was, I hate to say, I say this with some grimace, but the other great thing about it is the bands all wanted to be on there, so we'd have admission at the door, and all that money went to the label because the bands were just paid a stipend to perform. So, hey, here's your $150.
Oh, John, I remember.
You remember? You paid your $150. But the event itself became pretty popular, so we're getting like 300-400 people come through the door, and they're all paying admission. And I thought, that doesn't hurt either. I can stick that away in the little rainy day fund that ultimately the winner can go toward But Sonic X-Plosion, yeah, Steve Woodward came up with that. He had a lot of ideas, and most of them I had to say, Steve, we can't do that. We're not Virgin Records over here or Interscope or, any of those. But But I thought about it. I thought, this is feasible. We could do this, and it grew, and we did. And as I remember, I think we did it 2 years, and we went through an entire cycle. And I love the length of it all. I mean, it started in January and ended. It always culminated on Halloween, which was a great tie-in.
Yeah, the first one we won was on Halloween, and we still have that show on videotape of all things.
Really?
Of course. Oh yeah, totally. I think that do you remember how many years you actually did it?
I know it's at least 2. It seems like it's 3.
Three because
I think
there's
it's 3.
Henry's Child, there's
Okay.
Drive,
Right.
and then there was American Girls.
Oh my God, you're right. I did it.
And
We did it 3 years.
So by American Girls, that was you were probably in negotiations with maybe not doing the label anymore or something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to step out of the label. American Girls were the only, I thought this was very ironic, was the only band in the history of Elemental Records that I actually sold off to a major label. The major label came in and wrote me a check and bought the album that I recorded. And I thought, this is this is the crown jewel for any independent label back in the days. Get a band signed to a major label. That was always the goal. People would say, what are you going to do when someone comes along and steals one of your bands? I said, steals? I'm like, of course.
I'm going to the bank when they steal my band.
I want all of my bands to be signed on to a major label because, you care about the bands, you get close to them, you care about them as people, and you want them to go to that next level that you
were
couldn't
always
do.
a fan of music.
Yes.
And then you became part of the family. So now you're like just a permanent part of the Henry's Child family with us.
I looked at it like I'm raising a kid and, major labels was like you're sending them off to college or something like that.
So we had a couple friends who were just kind of around in the scene that kind of knew the American Girls pretty well. What occurred with that? It sounds like a really great story.
I wanted to do a little bit of a departure, I think. I remember going,
it was definitely different than anything that had previously been on even Drive skirted it a little bit with the violin, but they were still like rock.
Right.
Drive, there was no doubt Drive was a rock band.
Drive was actually after the American Girls. They were the third.
Oh, did I get them out of order?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was Henry's Child, and then the second year was the American Girls, and I thought, I was really, with the growth of the label and where we wanted to go, I said, it has its own succinct sound. It was kind of this alternative heavy, and I thought, I want to, you're trying to strike that balance between a certain amount of homogeneous kind of, feel is good because oh yeah, Elemental, and then when Henry's Child, like you said, when you guys came into the fold and they're like, oh yeah, that's the band with, with Jollymon and Floater and Sweaty Nipple. I mean, they knew you were just like a heavy hard rock band, but not like stupid 80s metal, like intelligent, what they call alternative back in the day.
What I remember is you, during Sonic X-Plosion, having a very serious discussion with yourself that you verbalized to me, that it was a debate. You told me after the fact. It was a big debate for you, whether or not you wanted to sign another band that was in that same genre, that would fit in the same exact part of the record store with Floater and Jollymon and Sweaty Nipples, or if you wanted to finally make that departure and sign a band like Bella Low, who came in second at the Sonic X-Plosion. They were very good. I mean, I remember that final show. I'd seen Bella Low a couple times. That was a very good band. But they were much mellower. They were very trippy, very kind of Floydian sort of thing
with
going on.
With a little bit of Dead Can Dance in there or
exactly.
something.
Some electronics, and they had, And again, though, very good band. And so I remember you told me after the fact that was a very serious debate for you.
I vacillated back and forth on it. I thought, diversification is important, but then I'm sort of, Elemental's known for the sound, and it's kind of like if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I'm like, it's worked so far, but then I want to. So the American Girls ultimately that was a departure. I thought let's. I mean, my goal at that time was just I want to be a larger label known for varied sounds. But the Henry's Child. Now, the thing is, it was Sonic X-Plosion, and I wanted to say this, that there was kind of this scuttlebutt going on in the local community because Henry's Child was a very, as you guys both know, being half of the band sitting in front of me here, you were a very established band already in Eugene. You weren't, most of the bands were from either out of the area or they were up and coming or they wanted to be signed. You guys already had a self-released CD out and you submitted your package and you're like, okay, we're in this contest. So there was a difference between like the level of establishment between your band and the others in the contest. And what I was going to say is the scuttlebutt was people were like, well, this is just kind of a rigged Remember those?
I
This contest is rigged. We all know
remember
Henry's
that.
Child's going to win the whole thing. And then that was a debate too. And we used to talk about it in the office. You're like, everyone thinks that Henry's Child's going to win. And so if they do, we look like we're just confirming that it's rigged, or that being rigged, that they're like, well, yeah, sure, Elemental wants that band because they already have a fan base. They already have a following. They already have a name recognition. They already have an album out already. And yeah, those things passed through my mind, but I tried to really keep an open mind. I thought, the best band is going to win. That's the best band. If it happens to be the most established one, it just happens to be.
And you did one thing that I think you might forget. We submitted our Mumbles and Screams CD with our little application we filled out. I think Tommy drove down and handed it to you personally. And you called back and said, I absolutely want to take it, but I need to hear some new music. You made us go record a demo. We recorded a demo of 6 songs. We went to the Wow Hall, did a 1-day recording, rented the Wow Hall, and you forced us to do it or you wouldn't take our application.
I totally do not remember that at all.
We vividly remember that.
And here's a funny
what
fact.
A ruthless business guy.
He was ruthless.
Well, I think it had to do with everyone saying, "Oh, Henry's Child's going to win."
Yeah, maybe
and so you wanted to say, "I'm putting you. You didn't allow previously released albums. It had to be new stuff." And so you held us to that standard.
On the retrospective 20 CD.
Oh yeah, Only Man, and It Came to Me. So
Right.
actually 2 of those songs never made it onto Clearly Confused that we recorded at the Wow Hall.
Oh,
And that's on that. Okay. I think it's sitting to your left there. The retrospective 20 CD has both of those tunes on it, and they're good songs. We're actually thinking about digging those up. I have no idea why Only Man did not make Clearly Confused, John. We were young and stupid because that's a really great song.
20 years later, and I'm learning new things. Okay, wow.
Yeah, I remember you forced us to do it, and we were in a bit of a tizzy. Like, how the hell are we going to do this?
Well, it's funny because we did proceed forward. I mean, if we're going to talk about Clearly Confused, this is a great opportunity because we did proceed forward with the Disney cover, which was like, boy, glad we didn't kick over that can of Scorpions before they bought Star Wars or whatever, And then the other one was we don't have any unreleased material from that album.
Yeah, I remember also on the Disney cover. And this was that wild maverick indie label mentality that I just kind of, and we were like, oh, the Disney cover and then the copyrights and the different, I thought, you know what, it'd be awesome to be sued by Disney. I mean, I think what the worst that's going to happen, they're going to make us take it off the album and then it'll become this weird collector's item and then we'll get all this press.
I remember you saying that to Rich and I. We were doing this song and you're like, no, you guys should do it. It'd be great if we got sued. It'd be huge.
If we don't get sued, it's a big middle finger at a corporate America, and if we do get sued, even better.
Great publicity. The little guy gets trampled by the big guy. What a great story.
Clearly Confused.
Indeed. That was fun.
Do you remember the record release party?
I do remember. I remember a couple of them. I remember that I was told that it was the most expensive Elemental album to date.
By a lot.
We also, for the record, I want to say we recouped in about 120 days. That included going on the road.
Wow.
And sending money back, back home or whatever for a certain portion of whatever was taken. I feel like I learned a lot of accounting and business skills from.
I was proud of the fact we
Uncle
recouped
John.
it that fast. You didn't expect that.
That's impressive. That's probably an Elemental record too, because an Elemental Records record. Yeah. That as far as how fast you did recoup
for the most expensive album. Again, I that to me personally, I remember talking about with everybody in the van, like a feather in our cap, that we came out of the gate with it that fast and did that well.
And that you recouped that fast, and it was expensive because you were tracking a gung ho, and we're trying to with every new release coming out, I wanted to take it up a notch, so it's like let's record at a better studio, and it used to be like track at a cheap one, mix in an expensive one or something like that, and
I still have a picture of you looking at your watch, and Steve Woodward's kind of like doing this thing, and it was taken the day that we were doing the transfer, so we had to pay Jeff Olson to bring his console in his truck over to Gung Ho, while we're still paying Bill Barnett the same hourly wage for him, and it was just like this, and because everything back then, kids, was done in real time. There was no way to fast forward it. We couldn't move it any faster. There was no digital track to bring over. It was literally Jeff Olson's machine. He set up in Bill's studio. Bill had his already set up, and then he just sort of did it.
All I kept thinking,
it was like double pay, and John's just like, dude, like, what are we doing?
All I kept thinking was $2 a minute. $2 a minute.
Yeah,
okay,
dude.
so we would be
Oh,
sit
he
there.
broke it down to the minute. That's
It was,
beautiful.
it was $120 an hour back then. I remember not just you guys, like any band. I think every band I put in the studio, and I'm in the studio, and they're doing this thing, and they're going, "Hey, yeah, remember that time we did the whole thing?" And then they're like shooting the shit and telling the story. And everything. I looked at them and I said, "Guys, that was a really funny story. That story just cost me like $18. So let's keep it moving." Because I mean, you just
At the same time, John, and something that was beautiful about you, and it was what, frankly, to every band, I know this is what made you so attractive as a label head, because I felt it in the moment. We were recording at Gung Ho. We're way over budget. More than once, you're like, "Keep going. I'll find the money." That was your line. That was your line. "I'll find the money." All right. That's why Tom's laughing, because he remembers that.
find a way or make one. Yeah.
So we are mixing the most epic song on the album, the one that got mentioned in most of the reviews, "Lie Before," 9 minutes long.
Oh, yeah.
the big opus. Yeah.
Yes. And so Bill has been mixing it with all of us in there, including you. I think we spent 4 hours just on that song mixing, getting all the levels right, getting all of the changes correct, because there's so much happening. And finally, it's like midnight, we plays through it. We're like, "That's good." Like, okay, Bill says, "Finally, my ears are done. I can't keep going.
Yeah.
I'm over." And you're like, "It sounds amazing." You were just wired. We're midnight. We're all there. And you tell him, "Can you burn me a CD of that?" Now, for the kids, that was a big deal back then. It cost John $30 to have Bill burn him a CD on the spot.
For one
Not
song.
everybody had CD burners back
Yep.
then.
But Bill had one. He looks at you like, okay. You're like, "I want to listen to it tonight and take it to my girlfriend's seat. I want her to listen to it when I get home." So he burns you one CD. You drive all the way home, listen to it, have her play it. You're back in the studio at 10 a.m. with us the next morning, and we're all there. And Bill had gotten up early with no one in there to distract him, he said, and remixed the whole thing for 2 hours and didn't charge you. Said those 2 hours are free, but he changed the EQing and opened up the top end and remixed the whole thing. So we got in. He says, "I think it's done. Let's give it a listen." And it was yet one more mix, and it was even better. And that's the one that's on the album. But I remember your passion being so intense. You wanted that CD to listen to that night, and you insisted. It was great. It was
like,
fantastic.
"I'm sorry, I'm going to have to charge you for that." And,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I'll find the money. John, I'll find the money,
It was
Bolt.
brilliant. You said that. You must have said that half a dozen times to us as we're going over budget, because if memory serves, and it might not, so please correct me. You had budgeted around 10 grand for the whole album, and when the whole thing finished, I want to say it was 17, and it was, like I said, way over.
I remember the over budget part. I couldn't give you the numbers. I'm not sure.
That's what stuck in my head, but it could be wrong.
It was 17.9 and some change.
Wow,
I trust
listen,
Tommy.
yeah, I
But
trust
10
Tommy too.
But 10 was the budget. And so we weren't just over. It was over. And you said, again, multiple times, "Keep going. It sounds amazing. I'll find the money."
Okay, so the album comes out, and you have a series of record release shows. That's what we did back in the days, right, kids? And
Yep.
Up and down
and
I-5.
you had a real big following in Salem.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy John's.
Oh, my God.
Tommy
Oh,
John's.
yeah.
People were denied the door at Tommy John's.
It-
They were on the street
Yep.
outside. When someone would leave, someone else would
Sold
come back
out.
in.
Here, you've already got an established following, but it's going to be a big record release part, which is like last night, with Joel, a special concert. It's not just another gig. And Tommy John's, I come up for it, of course. We got the CDs and and the boxes, and it's brand new on the street. I think it was probably like only your second record release show. Maybe your first one was Eugene. I don't remember, but I remember I go up to Salem with at least two of the office staff in tow. And at Tommy John's, they had this goofy I think, like a lot of times, like I drank for free because they were like, "Oh yeah, the label guy," and just whatever the hell it was.
We had stuff downstairs. Somebody brought us a whole bunch of free liquor.
Yeah,
I'm
there
not
was
sure
a
if it was fans or
I don't
somebody.
know if it was free.
They
brought liquor.
Well,
down,
we didn't pay
for
for
sure.
it.
I just remember there's this Jägermeister and there were Jaeger bombs, like big. It sounds disgusting. Beers with the Jägermeister dropped in it. And I don't remember how many I had that night. So I had coverage. I had people running the merch booth for me. So I thought, hey, all this work, all this effort, $17,000 later, I guess, or whatever. And I thought, I'm gonna tie one on and just have fun like everybody else. I'm a fan of the band. Do you remember the green room after? Because Tommy John's, the green room was in the basement.
Yep.
And I got so shit-faced that night that apparently there's, it's a basement and you got the pipes that, the overhead like water pipes, and I was swinging from the pipes.
You were monkey barring.
I was monkey barring on the pipes in the green room after the show. This is after the show. And all of a sudden, it was like something out of a movie. The pipe bursts and comes down, and water's shooting out all over the place. And you know, I fell down, and I'm embarrassed and everything. And there's like water. Anyway, long story short, it was this big successful night. The club owner was so happy. Oh, we sold out the bar tab. I think we set a new record. We sold tons of CDs. We're all high-fiving each other. And what does the label guy do? He damages the venue. And this was the best part of the. He damages the venue pretty bad. I mean, there was like water damage all over. They had to mop up and it screwed up some other stuff in the green room. And so at the end of the night, so it ends on this little anticlimactic sour note. And he went, Tommy was the money guy, and you guys are getting paid out for the sold out show. And he's like, I got to deduct the damages from your label guy. And he took money out of your take, and I remember telling you, and for the record, I want to say I did pay the band back, but John, I'll find the money bull, right? And I said, guys, do you realize the irony here? Remember the old like Van Halen stories? What happens?
Led Zeppelin with the shark.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin. Band goes into the hotel room or wherever. There are a bunch of immature musicians. They trash the place, and who pays for it? The label. You're going to have to pay for your pack of grade school kids that you call musicians over here, trash this thing. You got to pay for the damage. And I said, this is the exact inverse. Like the band had to pay for the label's damage.
And to really truly land this, I think he took $500 out of our take. It was not a small amount.
No,
I remember Tommy was pale when he came back.
You went home. You went home with far less money because your label guy, was swinging like monkey bars from too much Jägermeister on that thing.
What's beautiful is I've probably told that story 50 times.
Oh,
over the years.
it's just one of those. It's good. Okay, another one that's on a similar note. So we're telling stories, right? Is another similar note of being, and this involves just Tommy, a similar note of this inverse relationship of what it's supposed to be. I was supposed to meet Tommy at the office, or the Elemental HQ we talked about over on Taylor Street. And we had some kind of appointment to go over something. I want to say, I hope I'm right, that I called you first and said, dude, I know we said we're going to meet at 2, but I got to bump it to 4 or something. I just can't be there at 2. Or perhaps I didn't even call you and I was just late. I don't know. But I remember rolling in and you're waiting for me and we're supposed to have this business meeting. I'm bleary-eyed and this was an exception, not the rule. I actually was,
This
I
2
worked
o'clock in
very
the
hard.
afternoon?
Yes.
Okay.
But it turned into 4 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And I came in, and this is the funniest part. I come in there and I said, Tom, I'm really sorry. I mean, I know we were supposed to meet at 2. It's just that last night, me and my girlfriend, we went up to the hot springs and, it was a couple other musicians and one of the other bands or something. And we took a bunch of mushrooms and we were at the hot springs and it just turned into this all night thing. And we were tripping and the sun came up and blah, and I'm just, wow. I mean, I'm really sorry. Didn't plan on doing it. It's kind of spontaneous thing. It was a school night and everything. Didn't think it was going to be a party. But boy, we were just loaded and it was just rolling and the wine was flowing and everything. And I look over at Tommy and he's got this incredulous look on his face and he's just silent. And I finally stopped talking. He looked at me and there's a long pause and he goes, I'm the one in the band. This is supposed to be my story. You're the label. You're supposed to be at your desk working. I just pulled a double shift at the gas station while you were off,
you
party.
Got Tommy on a good day.
Yeah, and he was like, I'm the band. I joined a band so I could have stories like this, and I have to hear these stories from my label guy. It's like, aren't you an office jockey? And I thought, again, switching of roles,
It's interesting, yeah.
And what's amazing is Tommy joined the band for that, but never participated in those things.
Well,
he was always the businessman. He lived vicariously.
Yeah.
That's good.
I
Classic
don't remember
John.
it at all. But I probably had long hair, and I did work at a gas station for many years.
Did.
For a long time.
The look on your face, you were just shaking your head going, there's just something wrong with this picture here.
Usually I would just want to make photocopies, but today I have actual business.
Yeah, right. And I was late.
Brilliant.
Sorry.
It's okay, John. I forgive you. You made it all the way up from Las Cruces to do this podcast.
There you
Or
go.
I would like to think so.
Right. I came up for the podcast and I caught a Jolly Mon show while I was here.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Perfect.
So, John, tell me what year you sold the label and why you sold it.
Year I sold the label. That would be 1999. Yeah.
Right before the year 2000.
Right.
Y2K.
Why did I sell that? That's the golden question. At the time, I had a lot of people asking me, like, I don't understand. It seems, if things were kind of falling apart or the wheels were coming off the wagon, that'd be one thing. Or if things just were kind of slowing down to a whimper, and that wasn't the case. The Daddies, the Cherry Poppin' Daddies Alliance thing, we all know what happened there. They blew up big in 98. But, I just rode that wave. And then, things like, the American Girls we mentioned earlier. And then I remember, like, Floater being in the middle. And then the Cherry Pop Daddies, like, headlining the Cuthbert Amphitheater. And it sold out. So, it's kind of like you got all this momentum. A lot of people were asking me, like, well, what's the next move? You going to move to L.A.? And I thought, I don't really want to move to L.A. And I thought, computers and internet was starting to come on at that time. Quick aside, I remember Andrew asking me about, what do you think of this internet thing? Because it was like literally a new thing. And he goes, and I remember Andrew going, it's a little slow for me. Like, I don't have the patience because back then when things would load. But anyway, that was just so it's a valid question. Like, dude, why are you bowing out now? I just, and I could, come up with something trite like, oh, I wanted to go out on a high note or whatever. But the truth be told, it was a series of events. It's a very volatile business, meaning just the roller coaster, which when, in the beginning, it's a thrilling, you're up and down, and it's just the sweaty nipples thing. I remember pressing 8,000 CDs instead of the usual 1 or 2 because the pre-orders from the distributors were so huge, and the album did not perform as well as everyone thought. Not just me, but the stores said, geez, I don't understand. We've only moved a couple hundred units. We thought it'd be thousands. So, I realized that just within the whole thing with the Daddies and the different bands, it's like, wow, this business it's fickle. You can just be riding high, and the money would come in chunks. 1 month it's just like, it seemed like it was just raining cash, and there'd be like 3 months of like, God, how am I going to get the bills paid? Nah, you could argue that's with any business. But anyway, so there's a little of that. And then just personally, I was planning on getting married to my girlfriend at the time, and we were talking about having kids. I'm in my early 30s at this point, and she brought up, she not in a, I want to rain on your parade kind of way, but she said, if you want to talk about having a family, I don't see how that really fits in with the present. She said, because it's true. We would, oh, hey, Henry's Child's playing the Wow Hall tonight, and we got to go to the show. Then you got to go to the after show green room party, and then the after party. And I'm typically, you'd roll in at 4:30 in the morning, and it was great. It was a vampire schedule, it was the rock and roll thing. Our office at Elemental usually didn't even open till 11:30. That was like, that's the first meeting of the day. We'd all quit about 8:30. And so it was just sort of like, I don't see how kids are going to fit into this. And I said, yeah, you're right. So it was really just kind of a reassessment that we all do in life, looking at things. And I just felt like I had climbed to the top of this little, I don't want to call it a mountain, but maybe it was a molehill, but it's some kind of hill. I stuck my flag in the top. I kind of beat my chest, and I said, I did what I set out to do. I had this record label, and it was sort of like, what's the next move and everything. And then the whole thing sparked an interest in me. I thought, I'm definitely have an entrepreneur in my blood. I came up with it. Like, nobody showed me when I started the record label. No one showed me. There's no courses to take. There's nothing to graduate from college with. I thought, how do you do this? You just literally start going down blind alleys and then taking notes and going, ooh, not going to do that again.
Right.
Coming back, learn from your mistake. And then and it was literally, like, make it as you go. And there was no formula. There was no, there wasn't a kit available. It's not like signing on to Avon. How do you build your business? Something. It was literally just fumbling your way through it, educated guessing, etc. And so I thought, well, entrepreneurship, how about I take all those skills that I learned and put it into something that's more solid, And I thought, well, how about real estate? They're only making so much of it, or they're not making any more, rather. And so I had a big crossroads in my life, and I thought, and long story short, it's like, I'm going to move, halfway across the country. I'm going to change careers. I'm going to learn a whole brand new thing that I thought would have a lot more solidity to it. And, but the label was still viable. So it's like, do I just fold up the tent and say quit when, and then there was, someone there that was very interested and really into the bands and all that. And she said, well, I'll buy it from you. And I thought, to me, that was a definition of success. If I quit, it's not really the word quit if I sell the label. And I thought, I created a thing from scratch, from dust. It was just an idea that turned into a logo, that turned into a name, that turned into bullshitting people on the phone to get them on a compilation album, that turned, and so if I can sell this, I felt like I'm not just abandoning this child that I raised on the side of the road. It's kind of like, I raised this kid and now the kid's like, going into foster care, I guess. No, or going off to college is a better way to look at it. And I just, and I thought, and I did this, not to get too into, I did this kind of, God, am I going to be able to live with this? What if the label flops? What if it gets bigger? And I thought, regardless of what happens with the new owner and where she takes it or doesn't take it, I can always look back and go, I founded that. I started that. I did that. Even if she takes it and just folds it the next day. I mean, nothing's going to ever take that away. I think it was my girlfriend at the time that pointed that out. She said, what you did is it is what it is. And whether you quit, go on, the label goes on, it's all immaterial to the fact that none of it takes away from the fact of what you did. So I did that. And then just, I was able to sell it. Like I said, I felt proud of that I got a check, and then I just, had to, but it was a complicated process because, as you guys remember, all of the what I actually own besides the name and the goodwill and a bunch of inventory and all that stuff was these contracts that actually said they were non-transferable. So that meant that was for your protection as you guys being the musicians.
I remember that. It had to go through you.
I had to get permission, because I had to, and it's a good idea. I always wanted to be fair to the artist. I really did. And I thought, you don't want to be like, hey, you guys trust me. I share your vision. Let's do this. Oh, by the way, I sold it to that guy down the road, and he doesn't give two shits about you, so he's just going to throw your stuff in there. So that clause was in there, and I went around to all the bands. I said, look, this is what's happening. I'm going to sell it, and I need your buy off on this. And everyone just said, well, obviously we want to continue being on a viable label, and the woman buying it was very serious about, trying to take it to the next level and everything. So
I want to pause there for just a second. We're going to come back to that, John, but I want everybody listening to this podcast to really just get and be with how important John felt the music was. This is a really big important point because what he's talking about in the contract, Elemental Records, as an entity, owned the recordings of Clearly Confused that we recorded that day. So if somebody wanted to come along and make a car commercial of the song Flicker, they could only use that recording, and Elemental could sell it to them, or they could transfer it or something like that. But John always let us have our own publishing, meaning that if we wanted to go re-record the song for somebody else, we could. This was beyond fair. So even when we had music attorneys look at this, they were like, dude, people should pay labels for stuff like this to be able to get distributed. It's very serious. This was a really, really cool thing. And so John always honored the true integrity of musicians in a very authentic and real way. And so when he was talking about that particular clause and going around and having to get buy off on that, I distinctly remember that.
I appreciate you saying that, Tom, because I think it was, and not to sound sappy or something, but I always thought it was important. I'm like, this is your music. Yeah, I could say I found you in a, not the case with you guys, but I found you in this little bar, or I developed you, or I put my faith and I rolled the dice and money and this and that. And that's all true. But the bottom line is it's your creation. You created that music. To own someone else's music was never a motive for me. I mean, yeah, I want to protect my investment that I put you in the studio and there's, like you said, that physical recording. And I knew that people said, well, my own attorneys would say, I remember him saying like, well, the loophole there, like you just alluded to, is that if a major label comes along and they say, and you kind of take your tough stance, go, I want $100,000 for the album, they could say, you know what? We'll just have the band re-record the whole album. We don't have to give you crap. And then I was thinking, yeah, but my trump card then would be, I still own this album, and I can be on the coattails of your multi-million-dollar marketing machine and go, here's the original. And so I just felt like I had, as long as I was protected, I had a stake in it somewhere. But yeah, I'm proud to say, every single piece of music that we ever put out, I never owned any publishing rights to any of it and never had an interest in it.
Brilliant. One of the reasons all your bands loved you, John.
So
it's true, man. It's true.
So that's why I sold the label, and then just a whole different chapter. I went into real estate development down in New Mexico, and it went really, really well. And I got splintered off into other ventures, and I owned a retail store and storage units and a home health agency. And some other,
You did a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah, it's and a lot of it was all started from scratch. That seemed to be the theme that went through it all. Just like finding bands and everything, I was just like, I didn't buy existing businesses, or I just thought, here's an idea. Let's send the idea to a blueprint, the blueprint to construction to finish out. Yeah. So, but real estate did well for me, and then it splintered into several other things.
Well, I have to say, I think the ultimate irony is that you're kind of full circle in your careers now.
Yeah, I'm no longer in real estate, or I'm really phasing out of even owning businesses. Yeah, it's true.
Well, what I mean though is when you were the president of the label, I think your actual title was president/head therapist.
Right. Well, quick story on that. Going back to Howard Liebes, he made me a little sticker, like one of those name tags that said Jon Boldt, rock and roll counselor. This is back in the day, and I thought, what is that? And he said, I made you the sticker, and I put it on my bulletin board with all the the backstage passes and stuff. And I said, why is that? And he said, I watch you. He goes, these musicians drive me crazy, which is ironic because he's a manager, He goes, I just want to slap them around like little kids, and they come in whining and pissing and moaning and everything. And you just have this patience with them. They would come in off the road or coming off a bad show. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with this. And they're spouting and they're pissed and they're venting. I will just pull up a chair. And we'd sit in there, and an hour later they walk out, and they were like propped back up, dusted off, and they were like, all right, yeah, you're right, man. I got to keep up the fight, and this is going to be good. And then they'd leave, and he'd say, how do you, and I said, well, look, it's part den mother, part coach, part babysitter, part, that this thing called artist development or whatever. So he came up with that rock and roll counselor thing, because he just said, I don't know how you do it with the patience you have. And I said, listen, they're musicians, all right? There's a reason they don't fit in the mold like most of the other people. They're creative forces. They're more emotional. I mean, I'm making sweeping generalizations here. They're still generally true.
Highly accurate.
Yeah, and they're just, so there comes with creativity is a lot more emotional volatility. I mean, I'm sure Picasso was a pretty, tough guy to be around sometimes. I mean, people who are passionate about what they do or on the creative side, you're going to get exuberance and then going all the way over to, the other things on the other side. And I just took that as, I liked that energy, and it didn't, so yeah, the rock and roll counselor, it's pretty ironic.
Considering you're now a therapist.
I am. I am. Yeah.
I love it.
Full circle. It is funny. People, right. So being a therapist and sitting in a room and processing people's like innermost, emotions and mental anguish and secrets and personal embarrassing things and all that stuff. It does feel like all that time in artist development, everything that there's a lot of transferable skills in there. I just didn't have the diploma back then to actually be a licensed therapist, but I think I was starting to practice it.
I would say so. I would say so.
So is there any chance that Jon Boldt would ever work in music again?
Wow. The question I most commonly get is a little bit different, Tom. It's usually, so do you miss it? I mean, even like friends of mine back home in New Mexico that just, they don't know me from this, this business at all. They just, they hear the stories and they say, well, do you miss it? And a lot of times people ask me when I go out and see live music, I'm intently looking at the musicians and everything. And I think, my girlfriend asked me this just not that long ago, and she's watching me watch them. And she's like, do you miss it? Do I think I'd ever be involved in music again? It's certainly not a stated goal, but I like to think that I live life with just never really completely shutting a door for possibilities.
Love that.
Well, there's a couple of things I've shut a door on, but we won't go into that here. But but I would definitely say that you just never know.
What I got to say, John, is you obviously have a gift that has been honed by hard work, so don't think I'm short-shrifting you on this, to start something from nothing, figure out what it is, and like you say, go down the blind alleys either through thought or action, then create the blueprint, and then construct the mountain that you put your flag on. And this music and the way music is distributed throughout our world now has changed so dramatically. It feels like a completely new challenge for somebody like you, that it's not at all what it was 20 years ago. It's a completely different animal.
It's so different. And I mean, it's almost like saying, I use this metaphor all the time. It's just almost like saying, so do you think you want to get back into being a blacksmith? It's like in the age of automobiles. And I think to come full circle, you're right. It's so completely different. There's barely any physical product. It's all streaming. And I follow this because I'm in the mainstream media, I'm fascinated with how the industry has changed. I think if I ever did get back into music, it would be in a different capacity. I don't think I would have a record label per se. I would probably go more into like a management end or even promotion.
I think you'd be brilliant at that.
Well, thank you.
I do.
Thanks for coming in, Jon. Appreciate it.
It's going to be a long drive home. Just so you know, it's probably going to take about 3 days. No, I'm just
kidding. Flap your wings.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. This has been a real pleasure. So,
hey man, it's been fun.
Yeah,
it's been good seeing you.
Appreciate it.
Hoping to see you back up here for our CD release party. Can't give you a date yet, but you'll get plenty of notice. I promise.
I thought about that last night. I think I'm going to be expected to come up for the next Henry. So let's see how that goes. And yes, give me plenty of notice.
And I hope when that happens, we have Jollymon playing main support.
That would be great.
It would be.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. All right. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.